Welcome to the UC Santa Cruz Distinguished Graduate Student Alumni Award Ceremony, an annual ceremony where we honor the best of the best. I'm Quentin Williams, Interim Vice Provost and Dean of Graduate Studies. We're honoring 2 years of honorees today. Our 2020 honorees are, representing the Humanities Division in the History of Consciousness program, William D. Bro Adams, who received his Ph.D. in the History of Consciousness in 1982. Representing the Social Sciences Division in the Environmental Studies program, V. Ernesto Mendes, who received his Ph.D. in Environmental Studies in 2004. Representing the Physical and Biological Sciences Division in the Biology program, Danesh Moazed, who received his BA in Biology in 1985 and his PhD in Biology in 1989, both at UCSC. Representing the Baskin School of Engineering in the Statistical Science program, Matt Taddy, who received his PhD in Statistics and Stochastic Modeling in 2008. Representing the Arts Division and the Music program, Nicholas Vasallo, who received his Doctor of Musical Arts in Composition in 2011. And then our 2021 honorees are, representing the Arts Division in the Theater Arts program, Adrian Centino, who received his M.A. in Theater Arts in 2016. Representing the Social Sciences Division in the Sociology program, Macarena Gómez-Barris, who received her PhD in Sociology in 2004. Representing the Humanities Division in the Literature program, Belle Hooks, née Gloria Jean Watkins, who received her PhD in Literature in 1983. Representing the Baskin School of Engineering and the Computer Science and Engineering program, Rachel Karchin, who received her BS in Computer Science in 1998, her MS in Computer Science in 2000, and her PhD in Computer Engineering in 2003, all from UCSC. And representing the Physical and Biological Sciences Division in the Mathematics program, Ian Walton, who received his PhD in Mathematics in 1977. Thank you, Chancellor, honorees, and introducers.
I would like to welcome everybody here today. First, to all of you who count yourselves as proud Slug alum, welcome home. We're reuniting this year a little bit differently than usual, but Alumni Week is a wonderful, fluid celebration of our shared Slug heritage. And I'm just delighted that the Distinguished Graduate Student Alumni Award this year has really established itself again as a tradition. I would like to start off today by offering congratulations to all of this year's honorees and last year's too. Resilience and adaptation are words we've taken to heart over the past 13 months, and we made a little adaptation here today as well. We're honoring both the 2020 and 2021 honorees. To these alumni, I say this: your connection to UC Santa Cruz brings great honor and distinction to our university. The fact that you all work in discrete disciplines is a strong reminder that our alumni excel in a host of fields. You also serve as role models for our current cohort of graduate students, many of whom are watching today. So thank you. I offer my deepest appreciation and heartfelt congratulations. Graduate education is a defining aspect of the UC mission. Graduate school is what brought me to UC a few years back. Well, okay, to be honest, it was more than a few years back, but that experience set my life on a trajectory that has me speaking to you today. Graduate students play an integral role in our system-wide commitment to exploration, innovation, and discovery. Their research fuels the imagination, yields scientific breakthroughs, and advances social justice. In short, it enriches all of our lives. UC Santa Cruz has 36 PhD and over 50 master's programs spread across 5 academic divisions, and all told, nearly 2,000 graduate students. As you all know, our campus received a great honor at the start of last year with election to the American Association of American Universities, the AAU. It's something our campus has aspired to since our earliest days. and membership is limited to institutions at the forefront of high-impact research, world-recognized and often cited faculty, and educational excellence. Along with UC Irvine, UC Santa Cruz is the youngest university ever to gain admittance to the AAU. This honor underscores our standing as a premier research institution, furthering education, advancing knowledge, and contributing to American society and to the world beyond. I'd like to say just a few words about the man who introduced me today, Quentin Williams. Very grateful to Quentin for his service as grad dean since July 2019. He agreed to remain as interim dean until a permanent replacement was in place, and we're optimistic that that will occur this summer. When Quentin took on this role, I'm certain that he did not anticipate a global pandemic, wildfire, budget cuts, and a myriad of other challenges. I'm deeply appreciative of his efforts and grateful for his leadership. And now I'll turn it back to you, Quentin, to continue our program.
Thank you, Chancellor, for being with us today to celebrate these 10 distinguished graduate student alumni. I'll now welcome Professor David Evan Jones to introduce the 2020 Arts Division honoree.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Evan Jones, Professor of Music, and it is my pleasure to introduce the Art Division's 2020 Distinguished Alum, Professor Nicholas Vasallo. I recall in 2007 going through the applications to our doctorate in composition program and coming across an application from a certain heavy metal guitarist, vocalist. He had composed one of the most refined and expressive choral pieces I had encountered from an entering student. I was pleased to serve as Nick's advisor for the doctorate. I admired his facility and the depth in which he puzzled over structural decisions and orchestrational details, large and small. This process was particularly intense, of course, for his dissertation composition, a concerto for electric guitar and orchestra. After what seemed like endless revisions, adjustments, and polishing, Nick finally acknowledged, "Any changes I make now sound wrong." I suspect that it's that same drive, not for some illusory perfection, but for an integration of structure and detail, an intellectual and visceral rightness to his music that has enabled Nick's ongoing compositional success. In his final year at UCSC, Vasallo's potential was recognized with the President's Dissertation Year Fellowship, and the innovative dissertation composition he produced during that year was subsequently recognized with an award from the International Music Prize for Excellence in Composition. This award was not an anomaly. Post-UCSC, Dr. Vasallo's compositions have often been performed in prominent venues and recognized by distinguished awards. Awards from the H.M. Goreski International Composers Competition, the American Prize in Music Composition, and several others. Vasallo excelled as a teaching assistant while at UCSC, and he has subsequently served as an assistant professor of music at California State Polytechnic University, and currently as professor of music at Diablo Valley College. But what became of the heavy metal guitarist, vocalist, who applied to our program in 2007? Well, Nick distinguished himself in that category too. According to Wikipedia, Nicholas Vasallo is credited with being the father of a genre of extreme heavy metal called deathcore. Please join me in welcoming Nicholas Vasallo.
Thank you, David. It's really good seeing you, and thank you for those kind words. I really recall the moment you called me when I was a student at Cal State East Bay, and actually you left a message, and UC Santa Cruz was my first choice. I'd always go visit Santa Cruz, to go on vacation, and Santa Cruz is really its own universe. You know, I moved down there and lived there for 3 or 4 years during my my graduate studies, and very happy and very honored to be an alumni, a SLUG alumni. And I just want to say it was such a pleasure and honor working with David. I've never had an instructor that's been so hands-on, and, you know, had me over to his house. We would sit down and analyze scores, and he would be so interested in my music, more so than, you know, I'm not saying none of my other instructors were, but David was at another level. And yeah, it really helped me grow. So I think UC Santa Cruz in general is such a great place for inquisitive minds that are on that path towards reaching perhaps a pinnacle at that moment, and need to grow. I think I grew more at UC Santa Cruz than anywhere. I still felt like a total noob when I got there, and it made me want to learn more. So even after I got my doctorate, I still had that residual inquisitive mindset, and I think that was really instilled at UC Santa Cruz. So I'm so grateful and thankful for this award. I hope to, you know, inspire and lead other students, my students, on a path towards their pinnacle, their own achievements, and their own milestones in academia. And yeah, once again, thank you so much. You know, we're at different. I'm in a different part of my life now. You know, I don't stay up late, falling asleep with big books all around me on my chest at night. I have kids now, and that's how I fall asleep. Kids around me at night. And I think that UC Santa Cruz was definitely a huge bridge, I would say, towards my place right now, towards achieving my goals. You know, I got two different tenure track positions, and I don't think that would have happened without the mentorship I got from David and the studies I got from UC Santa Cruz and that awesome music department. So thank you so much. I'm very grateful for this award, and I'll definitely keep in touch. All right, you guys, thank you. Take care.
My name is Michael Chemers. I'm a professor of dramatic literature in the Department of Theater Arts here at UCSC. And it is my great honor to introduce the recipient of the 2021 Distinguished Graduate Alumni Award for the Arts. That's Adrian Centino. I nominated Adrian, and it was an honor and a privilege. When he arrived at UCSC, he was already a seasoned teacher of drama with aspirations to arts management. He was assigned to be one of the managers of our student-run theater, Barnstorm. In this position, he thrived not only as a capable manager, but also demonstrably possessed with a vision of inclusion. He made the barn more popular among a wider and more diverse swath of UCSC students through energetic initiatives. He oversaw a very successful season and was a favorite of the undergraduate students who participated. However, Adrian also exhibited early on a tremendous capacity and appetite for more scholarly theoretical work. He undertook a largely self-directed exploration of the work of Gloria Anzaldúa, largely her 1987 work, Borderlands La Frontera, the New Mestiza, which became the central methodology of his thesis. In his thesis, Adrian convincingly and elegantly applied Anzaldúa's framing concept, nepantlerismo, as a governing ethos for arts administration in the current American environment of increasing diversity and politicization of art. Adrian's case study consisted of his collaborative administration of the barn space. This thesis has been in use by the barn managers who followed him ever since as a model for expanding inclusion and also for conflict resolution and mediation. In addition to this excellent work, he also studied extensively with me on the topic of dramaturgy in theory and practice. In the years since his graduation, Adrian skyrocketed to national prominence in the field of dramaturgy. He's worked as a dramaturg at San Diego Repertory, Child's Play Theater in Phoenix, which is the largest theater for young audiences company in the country, the Ensemble Theater in Santa Barbara, the Jewel Theater here in lovely Santa Cruz, and Company of Angels, which is the oldest active theater company in Los Angeles. He currently serves as the literary manager for the Playwrights Arena in Los Angeles, and he is on the selection committee for the Latinx New Play Festival at the San Diego Repertory, and also for the 50 Playwrights Project Best Unproduced Latinx Plays list. And this is a list, if you don't know it, that is used yearly by the major theater companies in the US, including the New York Public, the Goodman, the Center Theater Group, who ask for every script on the list after its publication to review for production. He's also on the selection committee for the Kitchen Dogs New Play Festival in Dallas and for the Premier Stages New Play Festival in New Jersey, where he was an on-site respondent in the days when we could still be on-site. As an educator, Adrian is the program coordinator for UCLA's Theater Summer Institutes. He teaches dramatic theories at California State University Long Beach, and he has guest lectured in theater at UC Riverside and USC. Finally, he serves by invitation on the National Endowment for the Arts Musical Theater Grants Panel. On a personal note, Adrian worked very closely with me to resolve some very difficult times in our department as a facilitator between students and the administration. And I can think of no alum of our graduate program who deserves this recognition more than Adrian. Please join me in welcoming Adrian Centino.
Thank you, Michael, for that incredibly generous and warm introduction. My grandfather once told me, if you ever find yourself imagining that you're the smartest person in the room, you need to get yourself into a better room. Today, I am 100% certain that I am in a better room. I am deeply humbled to be standing here virtually among my fellow honorees for the UC Santa Cruz Distinguished Graduate Student Alumni Award. My experience at UC Santa Cruz was one of a lifetime. It allowed me to explore the field that I loved, form new friendships, and grow as a practitioner, scholar, and advocate of the arts. Professors like Dr. Michael Chemers, Dr. Danny Shea, Dr. Patty Gallagher, Dr. Jim Bierman, professors like Kate Edmonds and David Lee Cuthbert, they extended their mentorship not only through the program, but well beyond it. And many of the students that I met there remain my collaborators, my co-conspirators in the field today. UC Santa Cruz taught me a lot about the importance of community. I arrived as an outsider, but was greeted as a friend by so many. And that generosity of spirit was foundational to the program that I knew, and it was essential to the programming, management, and administration of the Barn Theater. A theater is only as strong as its people, and the Barn was strong precisely because it was populated with people that genuinely cared for both the work and for each other. That space and the people that filled it made me a better, more compassionate listener and a more dynamic, creative thinker and problem solver than I had ever been before. I owe a lot to the people that I met there. I owe a special debt of gratitude as well to my graduate cohort and to the UCSC Theater Arts staff for their overwhelming support during my time as a graduate student at UC Santa Cruz. I try to carry that generosity, that solidarity, that good humor, that DIY attitude with me into the field, and so far it has worked wonders. We can do so much with so little when we work together, and that's what I love about the theater, and that's what I love about UC Santa Cruz. I dedicate this overwhelming and wonderful honor to my mother, Wanda. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. My name is Athanasios Kottas. I'm professor in the Department of Statistics, and it's truly my great pleasure to introduce Taddy as the 2020 Baskin School of Engineering awardee. Matt was the first PhD graduate of the Statistics and Stochastic Modeling program, an interdisciplinary graduate program that provided training on a synthesis of statistical inference and mathematical modeling for complex stochastic systems. And Matt's work actually and an approach to research in general epitomized the spirit of that program. He was committed to collaborative research and had a unique talent for developing creative statistical methods to solve substantive problems from different scientific fields. He was here for only 3 years, and in those 3 years, he accomplished tremendous research, produced tremendous research products. Beyond his PhD thesis work, Matt has contributed to several collaborative projects involving several actually statistics faculty and researchers from Lawrence Livermore National Labs and NASA Ames. For his PhD dissertation, he developed powerful statistical models and computational inference methods for a range of scientifically relevant problems. His PhD thesis papers were published in the very top statistics journals, and his PhD dissertation received an honorable mention for the prestigious Savage Award in Applied Methodology, which is awarded each year to an outstanding doctoral dissertation in Bayesian econometrics and statistics. After leaving UCSC, Matt has developed a truly remarkable career. Since 2018, he holds a senior position with Amazon, serving as the Vice President of Economic Technology and the Chief Economist for North America. From 2008 to 2018, he was a faculty member at the University of Chicago, Booth School of Business. He joined the University of Chicago as an assistant professor of econometrics and statistics, and he was promoted actually to full professor with tenure after just 8 years, which is quite an accomplishment given their tenure system. In addition to his research work over there, Matt made fundamental contributions to the teaching curriculum at the University of Chicago School of Business. He created a course on big data, and he led the development of the data science curriculum in general. His contributions and teaching excellence were recognized with different teaching awards from both faculty and students. Matt has also served on several industry positions in more recent years, including head of economics and data science for business AI at Microsoft, as principal researcher at Microsoft Research, and as a research fellow at eBay. He has published several influential research papers in statistics and economics, including research on statistical foundations for machine learning and data science. And he has also published a book, Business Data Science, in 2019, which grew out of his big data class at University of Chicago and his work in industry. Matt's exceptional performance as a PhD student and his brilliant career so far provide a key success story for the statistics graduate program, and more generally, I would argue, for graduate education in the Baskin School of Engineering and at UCSC. On a more personal note, I feel very fortunate to be at the right place at the right time to work with Matt as essentially my first PhD student. And I'm delighted to have this opportunity today to say a few words about him. Matt could not join the award ceremony today, but he has prepared a video with remarks for accepting the award. And as we watch the video, please join me in congratulating Matt Taddy. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Taddy, and I'm super honored to receive recognition as a distinguished alumni of UC Santa Cruz and of the Baskin School of Engineering. Everybody knows I'm a proud banana slug. Everybody knows I went to UCSC, and I'm very proud of that, and also to have a statistics PhD and be working as a statistician who went to an engineering school, which is not that common. And I think that with the sort of rise of big data and machine learning and artificial intelligence in the fields that I work in, having the builder's mindset and the background in engineering that I got out of that unique situation at the Baskin School has really served me well. And I don't think I would have the career that I have if I had not gone there and been part of that environment. So I really got a lot more out of my time at UCSC than just a degree in statistics. I got a mindset and approach to problems that has stuck with me ever since, and I'm very, very thankful for that. The other amazing thing about the Baskin School, which I look back on fondly, is just how open and multidisciplinary it was. Nobody worried, what you were working on, what department you were from. I was part of the very new, at that time, Applied Mathematics and Statistics Department. It's just a fantastic group of people. Thanos, who you just heard speak, as well as a bunch of other just really great new faculty members. And it was just a fantastic environment for someone who did not want to be limited by the boundaries of a specific domain and who wanted to be able to learn a whole general set of skills to solve whatever problems would come their way. So again, the Baskin School has a very warm place in my heart, and I look back on it extremely fondly. I'm sorry that I'm not able to be there today. I looked at the other set of people receiving this recognition. It is very, very elite club. I wish that we could all be there in person, and I wish that I was able to be doing this live. But hopefully in the near future, all of us will be back together again soon. So anyways, thanks again. I really appreciate the recognition. It's a huge honor. Thank you.
I'm Kevin Karplus, and I've been a professor at UCSC now for 35 years, first in computer engineering, then in bioinformatics, and now teaching analog electronics to bioengineers. But Rachel Karchin has been associated with UCSC for even longer. She did her freshman year under a different name in 1968-69, taking art, humanities, and social sciences classes, but no STEM. She paused for 25 years and then came back in 1995 as a computer engineering major. She finished the Bachelor of Science in 3 more years, getting A's in all but one of her courses once we started requiring grades in 1996. She even got an A in the tech writing class that Tracy Larive and I taught in spring 1998, and anyone who's taken a writing intensive course from me knows how hard that is. Rachel started doing bioinformatics with a grad course in winter of her senior year, but took a 1-year break before coming back to do a Master of Science with Professor Hausler in 1999-2000, and a Ph.D. in protein structure prediction with me from 2000 to 2003. Her Ph.D. thesis introduced a rigorous method for evaluating secondary structure alphabets, something that had been pretty much ad hoc up until then. Rachel's writing continued to be good. Her thesis is the best written one I've read. And we still use her thesis proposal and her thesis as good examples in the graduate writing course in our department. Since leaving UCSC, she's been a professor at Johns Hopkins University in biomedical engineering, oncology, and computer science. She applied her expertise in protein structure prediction to developing methods to predict which variants in genes would be pathogenic, which she used, among other things, to analyze variants of unknown significance in the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes involved in breast cancer. Her work has since expanded to include identifying cancer drivers and modeling biomarkers for cancer prognosis and tumor evolution. Her tools, CHASM, Cravat, now OpenCravat, have been widely used for analyzing genomic variants. 3 years ago, she co-led the Cancer Genome Atlas TCGA PanCan Atlas Essential Genes and Drivers Analysis Working Group. And I do hope they had a shorter working name than that. She supervised 7 grad students to their PhDs so far. Please join me in welcoming the 2021 BSOE Distinguished Alumna, Dr. Rachel Karchin.
Oh, thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you for this wonderful honor. And I've made some notes. So I want to tell you that I advise many undergraduate students now in my role as a professor, and many of them agonize over what their major will be or what they're going to do after graduation. Today, kids are pressured to have it all figured out by age 18 or 19. And as you've just heard, I certainly didn't have it all figured out. So I came back to UC Santa Cruz in 1995 after a long absence. I was completely infatuated with computers and computer science, but the opportunity to learn computational biology and bioinformatics was totally serendipitous. It began when Richard Huey, whose discrete math course I had just completed, sat down next to me on a bus and invited me to join the then newly formed bioinformatics research group, which was paying $8 an hour for the summer. So I did join, and it really stuck. I really found my passion and my direction. And interestingly, while I had perhaps wandered a bit in my life until I came back to school, over the next few years, a series of opportunities opened themselves up to me. For example, I received a full ride, a full fellowship to go to graduate school. Then I got a postdoctoral position at UC San Francisco, and finally a faculty position at Johns Hopkins, eventually leading to tenure and a full professorship. Looking back, the whole thing was unexpected, and I think it's completely remarkable. It's really a great example of how opportunities in life happen unexpectedly. But I think there's something about Santa Cruz itself that brings this out. It's really an environment that encourages serendipity, that really opens people up, brings out the best in people. And I must tell you that I miss Santa Cruz terribly. I wish I could have returned in person for this ceremony, but in this crazy COVID period, of course, it was not to be. So thank you very much. And thank you, Kevin, for your wonderful tribute.
I'm Lori Kletzer, Campus Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor here at UC Santa Cruz. And it is my pleasure to introduce the 2020 Humanities Division honoree, William D. Bro Adams. As I have shared with some, but perhaps not many in this audience, being campus provost here is not my first provost rodeo. Bro Adams changed my career in so many significant and meaningful ways when he asked me to be provost and dean of faculty in the period of time that turned out to be the last 4 years of his service as the 19th president of Colby College. In each of his professional roles, Bro has demonstrated a deep understanding of and commitment to the humanities as essential to education and civic life. That commitment is in so many facets of Bro's career. Not quite starting at the beginning, but Bro earned his undergraduate degree in philosophy at Colorado College. And as we celebrate today, a Ph.D. from our own History of Consciousness program. He studied in France as a Fulbright scholar before appointments at Santa Clara University and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Bro coordinated the Great Works in Western Culture program at Stanford, and he served as vice president and secretary of Wesleyan University. He became president of Bucknell University in 1995 and president of Colby College in 2000. Most recently, he served as the 10th chair of the National Endowment for the Humanities, nominated by President Obama in 2014. Bro completed his NEH service in 2017. And upon leaving NEH, Bro was named a senior fellow at the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. Bro's commitment to the role of the humanities deeply centers UCSC. Bro delivered the 2016 Matra lecture he entitled Wicked Problems, Humanities in the Time of STEM. He is currently acting as the honorary chair of the Humanities Institute's endowment campaign, and he's been increasingly involved with THI and the Humanities Division. Perhaps some of you joined us and him in the inaugural Deep Read and Baskin ethics lecture with Margaret Atwood earlier this year, where Bro was the MC in the public event and host at the private reception. Bro is now writing a book about the French phenomenologist Maurice Merleau-Ponty and the painter Paul Cézanne. Whenever you have a chance, I encourage you to ask him about his paint by number, Paul Cézanne. I could say many things about Bro, all deeply complimentary. And here I want to say this, that what has struck me most over the wonderful 11 plus years of colleagueship and friendship is Bro's serious engagement with questions about the nature of human life and work and thought. As a public servant chair of the National Endowment for the Humanities, Bro was a dedicated and eloquent and fearless advocate for the humanities and humanistic disciplines. And now our Humanities Institute is a beneficiary of that same perfect fit, humanities advocate and spokesperson. Bro and I have long treasured our shared love of UCSC, and I will be forever grateful that our career and life paths crossed in the significant way they did. I am thrilled to share today's celebration with him. Please join me in welcoming Bro Adams.
Thank you, Lori, and good afternoon, everyone. What a pleasure it is to be here and to be in this incredibly distinguished company. I'm really honored by the university and by the presence of everyone here today. It's such a pleasure to be introduced by Lori. She gave you the backstory there, beginning in our relationship at Colby College over a decade ago and continuing to this day. And I'm so delighted every day that she's back at Santa Cruz, giving her wonderful leadership qualities to the university that we both care about so much. Her reference to the Cézanne paint by numbers, by the way, was about a little gift that Lori gave to me right before I left Colby and right after a brief sabbatical in Provence, where I spent a lot of time hanging out in places where Cézanne painted. And when I got back, she gave me this paint by numbers piece of art making. Lori, I've still got it. I haven't finished the painting, but when I finish it, you'll be the first to know. This last year has been for college administrators, I think, and faculty and students, everybody associated with higher education, not just unprecedented, but incredibly difficult. And it's caused us all to think about things in new and different ways, I'm sure. What it's caused me to think about really is what kind of educational experience we want to offer to today's undergraduates to prepare them to live in this very complicated post-pandemic world. And thinking about that, as I've done recently, owing to some lectures I gave at Mercer University, has caused me to think again about the great liberal arts education that I had both at Colorado College, but then I think most especially at Santa Cruz, where I had one of those big, broad, rambling journeys through not just the arts and humanities, but through the social sciences, and in some distant ways, some of the sciences as well, at least in the history and philosophy of science. And I've benefited from that educational experience ever since in ways that I think about a lot. But I think it's especially this last year that I've become aware of how critical and fundamentally important the liberal arts are to not just understanding what happened to us during the pandemic, which was a deeply interdisciplinary experience involving almost every dimension of what academics do every day in their teaching and research, but which really pointed the way, I think, beyond the pandemic to what the world will be like for our undergraduates in the coming years. And it deepened my belief that the liberal arts and sciences are the key to preparing students well for the world that they're going to inhabit. And I think Santa Cruz, as it's always been deeply committed to that kind of education, has a very special opportunity going forward because it has this rich background of liberal learning and this rich background in interdisciplinarity, which was the characteristic of the university during my time, but also because it has developed since my time there, frankly, extraordinary capacity in the sciences. And the marriage of the humanities and the sciences and the social sciences is now, I think, the order of the day. So I hope that the university will continue to seek, to find ways to push ahead and to be innovative and indeed trend-setting with respect to the way it practices the liberal arts and sciences and to the way it educates people for this remarkably difficult and complicated world that has emerged over the last 12 months or so. So I deeply value my experience there. I think it's a model in certain ways and with certain adjustments for what we need to do now with respect to the future students of the University of California, Santa Cruz. And I'm deeply grateful for everything it did for me because it really gave me a foundation from which to do the things that I've done since leaving. So again, I'm honored to be here, grateful to be in this really distinguished, amazing company. And I thank you all and thank the university.
I'm Carla Ferchero, and I'm chair of the literature department. And I'm also a faculty member in history of consciousness. So I am particularly delighted today. It's a kind of double pleasure for me. I'm really glad that the Humanities Division has chosen the Literature Department's nominee, Bell Hooks, to receive the UC Santa Cruz 2021 Distinguished Graduate Student Alumni Award. Bell Hooks, née Gloria Jean Watkins, received her BA at Stanford University in 1973, her MA at the University of Wisconsin-Madison 3 years later, and a Ph.D. in literature at UCSC in 1983. Her dissertation on the fiction of Toni Morrison was directed by the late Professor Helene Moglen and included Professors Michael Cowan and John Jordan as readers. Reciting the academic milestones, however, doesn't do justice to the influential reach of Bell Hooks's writing spanning 40 years, from the timely interventions in difficult feminist dialogues between white and Black women in Ain't I a Woman? Black Women and Feminism, feminist theory from margin to center, Talking Back, Thinking Feminist, Thinking Black, and Yearning, Race, Gender, and Cultural Politics, to the debates on media representations of race in Black Looks, Race and Representation, and Reel to Reel, Race, Sex, and Class at the Movies, the heartfelt hymns of sisterly and brotherly care on the topics of love, friendship, masculinity, and spirituality. She's also written extensively about writing, pedagogy, art, music, poetry, and place. She's an essayist, a cultural critic, a social activist, and a poet. Her books are accessible, sometimes difficult, always passionate, lively, and honest. Bell Hooks is a shining example of a public intellectual. The Utne Reader listed her among the 100 visionaries who could change your life, and the Atlantic Monthly dubbed her one of our nation's leading public intellectuals. Bell Hooks has also been appointed Distinguished Professor in Residence in Appalachian Studies at Berea College in Kentucky, the state where she was born. In the special issue of Appalachian Heritage on African Americans in Appalachia, she suggests that her own radical critical consciousness was learned at home in a Kentucky community of African Americans. She writes, "While I do not claim an identity as Appalachian, I do claim a solidarity, a sense of belonging that makes me one with the Appalachian past of my ancestors, Black, Native American, white, all people of one blood, who made home place in isolated landscapes where they could invent themselves, where they could savor a taste of freedom." Dean of Humanities Jasmine Allender comments that Bell Hooks's brilliant critical cultural eye consistently ignites new thinking and awakens countless intellectual lives. Her focus on the ability of loving communities to overcome race, class, and gender inequalities resonates deeply with the ethos of UC Santa Cruz. Our graduate students and undergraduates continue to read her work, and are animated by her many insights, her sharp wit, and her profound dedication to social justice. It's an honor to confer on Bell Hooks the Humanities Division UC Santa Cruz 2021 Distinguished Graduate Student Alumna Award. Bell wasn't able to be with us today, but we're delighted that Humanities Graduate Student Alumna and Distinguished Professor Emerita of Feminist Studies, Bettina Apteker, is here to accept the award on Bell's behalf. Please join me in welcoming Bettina Apteker.
So much, Carla, and all the colleagues and alumni and friends, and how excellent it's been to listen to the wonderful statements applauding UCSC in this occasion. It's my great pleasure and honor to accept this Distinguished Alumni Award 2021 on behalf of Bell Hooks. I spoke with her a couple of weeks ago. She was thrilled and honored to receive this award and regretted that she was unable to be with us today. Her career, as Carla so eloquently expressed it, has truly been extraordinary. Bell and I were in graduate school at the same time. She was in literature and I was in history of consciousness. We took 2 seminars together, one in the fall of 1980 on feminist theory, and one in the winter of 1981 on gender and interpretation. I still remember Bell's participation in those seminars because she was always so present, even sometimes confrontational in her comments. She would get us all woken up. In a talk on campus back in 1982, Bell included a beautiful and generous reading of my book, Woman's Legacy, that in part featured Black women's history and had just been published. I so appreciated her words, just as I was indebted to her for her first book, Ain't I a Woman? Black Women in Feminism, published a year earlier. Bell's dissertation was on Toni Morrison. Morrison had not yet published Beloved, which is what brought her to public attention in certain ways in this country. But to Bell and her colleagues in the literature department, it was perfectly clear that she was already a major American writer. The dissertation was prescient. Bell and I graduated together in 1983. We have remained connected since those days, and I know from teaching her work in my classes what an enormous, lasting impact her writing has had on generations of our students and on generations of scholar activists across our country and the globe. I have taught her work, Teaching to Transgress, many, many times in a feminist pedagogy class, and even though that book was published in 1994, it still remains amazingly current and relevant, and students revel in it, and it gives them permission to do certain kinds of teaching. And I have been especially appreciative of her beautiful recent writings on love and spirituality. She's been an extraordinary presence in our country and in the world. Thank you for gracing Bell Hooks with this award. Few are more deserving of it. Thank you so much.
My name is Harry Noller. I'm the Sinsheimer Professor of Molecular Biology, a member of the Department of Molecular Cell and Developmental Biology, and I've been here at UCSC since 1968. And one of the greatest times I've had during this 50-plus year career here is having Danish Moazed in my research group. Danish came here as an undergraduate and came into my lab to do undergraduate research, and he stayed on to become a graduate student in my lab, and for a short time also a postdoc. And during that time, I just reviewed the history a bit, and anyway, his name appears on no less than 22 published research papers from his work during that time. Danish was a student along with two other outstanding graduate students, Seth Stern and Ted Powers. And between the three of them, they literally took the pipette out of my hands and said, we're going to do this now. And what they developed between them was a very powerful method for probing RNA structure and function. Danish ran with this, and in a short time, that is in research years, over the course of 3 or 4 years, mapped the functional sites of the ribosomal RNA and transformed the ribosome field almost single-handedly. He then became interested in how cell fate determination works. Why does a liver cell become a liver cell and a brain cell become a brain cell, and they, during our lifetimes, do not revert and become other kinds of cells? And so this drew him for his postdoctoral work to UC San Francisco, where he worked with Alexander Johnson and became expert in this field. He then got recruited by the Harvard Medical School, where he is now a professor and has received many honors for his work. He now is one of the world leaders in the field of epigenetics. That is how the genetic information changes in different cells in our body during development and stays that way during our lifetime. So it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our honored graduate alumnus, Danish Moazed. Thank you.
I would also like to thank the UCSC Graduate Division for this award, and I'm very honored to be here today. I will say a few words about my time as a graduate student at UCSC and in Harry's lab. I arrived at UCSC as a transfer student during my junior year, as a still relatively new immigrant, having arrived from Iran in the US only about 2 years prior to my arrival at UCSC. The years at UCSC were the most enjoyable and important years of my scientific career, and I know I owe all of that to Harry and Ola. And also during my time at UCSC, I met very lifelong friends, which has been really important to me. I was introduced to Harry maybe somewhat accidentally by James Granger. The year that I took biochemistry and biochemistry lab, a class that Harry taught at UCSC, he was on sabbatical and Jim had taken over. So my thanks also to Jim Granger for introducing me to Harry. I would like to thank Harry for taking me into his lab and into his ribosome family. I'm forever grateful for the opportunity to have worked with Harry on the ribosome. I knew immediately after joining Harry's lab that I was in a special place. Harry was the leader in the ribosomal RNA world in terms of both ideas on technological development and his approach to science, which was characterized by unbound curiosity, love and passion for the problem that he worked on, the ribosome, and from the very outset in pursuit of fundamental mechanisms that have remained conserved in all life forms over billions of years of evolution. The lab was an extremely special place with a sense of excitement for discovery that I still miss after all these years. The many lessons that I learned from Harry and during my time at UCSC have remained with me and have been a source of continued inspiration over the years. So then I'd like to again finish by thanking Harriet again. Working in Harry's lab was really the honor of my life, and I'm very grateful for this honor, and thank you all for being here.
My name is Ed Landesman. I'm Professor Emeritus of Mathematics, and I have the honor today of introducing Dr. Ian Walton. I'd like to start with some interesting statistics. Almost 1/2 of students earning a bachelor's degree in STEM from a UC campus transfer from a California community college. About 30% of UC graduates start at one of the 115 accredited California community colleges, which serve more than 2 million students. It makes the California community colleges the largest system of higher education in the country. These statistics are especially relevant as I talk about the 2021 Physical and Biological Sciences Distinguished Graduate Alumnus, Dr. Ian Walton, and the major role he's played through his teaching, his research, and his service and administration with the California community colleges. He came to us from Dumfries, Scotland, receiving his Bachelor of Science in Pure Math from the University of St. Andrews in 1973. He was granted a Fulbright and a UC Education Abroad scholarship to study in the US, was admitted to UC Berkeley, UCLA, and UC Santa Cruz, and came to UC Santa Cruz. I became his advisor in the math department, and eventually he worked with me and wrote his PhD dissertation in partial differential equations under my supervision, and got his doctorate in 1977. I might say that his research was excellent, and he could have chosen a career as such, but I'll go on to tell you more about that in a few moments. He was a teaching assistant, a resident preceptor at Crown College, and a graduate student representative on the Chancellor Search Committee. He also began to understand the use of technology in the support of students who are enrolled in STEM disciplines. In 77-78, following his PhD, he stayed on as a doing postgraduate study as a Crown Fellow, and taught a math course for liberal arts students, and also had a part-time appointment at Monterey Peninsula College, one of the local community colleges. Then he made a career choice, deciding he would like to devote himself to working with students, many of whom were underrepresented, who desired to have careers in STEM. He turned down a job offer at a 4-year college and became an early faculty member in the math department at the local community college, Mission College in Santa Clara. There he won numerous teaching awards: Faculty Member of the Year, Excellence in Teaching, Outstanding Math Teacher of the Year from the Santa Clara Valley Math Association. He chaired the statewide committees that wrote online education guidelines for the use of technology. He worked with Martha Cantor, then president of De Anza College, who went on to work in the government, but chaired with her on the telecommunications and technology for the community college system. He took on roles of department chair, division chair for science and engineering, and president of the Mission College Academic Senate. He won more awards: Courageous Leader Award, Special Recognition Award for Service, the John Vasconcelos Award, the Hayward Excellence in Education Award. These last two are extremely prestigious awards for the community college system. He went on to become the president of the statewide academic senate for community colleges. He was the lead author or co-author for dozens of educational policy papers, including the intersegmental statement on competencies in mathematics. He was elected a volunteer public member of the Accreditation Commission for Community and Junior Colleges, became the chair of the 19-member Commission for Accreditation, and has been a team facilitator for the California State University's Middle Leadership Academy. He's now a board member of the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges. In summary, Dr. Walton attributes much of his success as a teacher, researcher, and administrator to his graduate years experiences at UC Santa Cruz. I now welcome to this virtual stage the 2021 Physical and Biological Sciences Division Distinguished Graduate Student Alumni Honoree, Dr. Ian Walton.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you, UCSC, for honoring not just a career in educational leadership, but the 115 accredited colleges in the California Community College system, colleges who serve the most vulnerable students in our state. And thank you for being part of this adventure to my colleagues at Mission College in Santa Clara, to the statewide academic senate who represent over 50,000 faculty, to the accrediting commission who accredit all the two-year colleges in California, Hawaii, and the US Pacific, and to CSU's Middle Leadership Academy. So UCSC was a unique and wonderful place in the 1970s, especially if you came from the 700-year-old University of St. Andrews in Scotland. Suddenly, I met the smartest undergraduates I've ever encountered, and I joined a culture at the colleges that integrated academic and social learning opportunities. In choosing UCSC, I turned down offers from Berkeley and UCLA in search of something different, largely influenced by the eloquence of UCSC education abroad students in Scotland. Being a resident preceptor at Crown College was the perfect on-the-job training to be an academic senate president. I had to master the challenge of leading independent, articulate minds using only the power of persuasion. And little did I realize how the whole UCSC environment was giving me the perfect mix of skills for my career in educational leadership. A research degree from the Division of Physical and Biological Sciences in the Math Board, of course, gave me the fundamental academic credibility to work with leaders in all three of California's higher education systems. One of those turned out to be former Chancellor Blumenthal, who was my counterpart in the UC Academic Senate. It also let me use numbers and data to educate and persuade politicians and business leaders. Crown College gave me confidence in people skills, and representing the graduate division on a Regent's Chancellor Search Committee gave me my first glimpse into the eclectic politics of academia. Working as a teaching assistant with a uniquely supportive advisor who valued research and teaching and the creative use of technology, that's Ed Landesman, whom you just met, that provided me with the essential spark. My parents were both teachers and they valued public service, but it was UCSC that ultimately revealed the joy in that vocation. My year as a Crown Fellow and at MPC introduced me to the diversity of students who find basic mathematics a barrier to their career aspirations in STEM fields. So in my career choice, I again selected the unconventional. I turned down a traditional four-year university position in favor of the chance to build Silicon Valley's newest community college. Mission College not only served underrepresented students in basic math, but encouraged large number of future engineers in our calculus classes. And subsequently, I pursued those same goals for many years at the policy level in the Academic Senate and the Accrediting Commission. So UCSC was the launching pad for all of this. Thank you once again, and I'm honored.
I'm Greg Gilbert, Professor of Environmental Studies, and it is my honor to be able to introduce Dr. Ernesto Mendes as the recipient of the 2020 Distinguished Graduate Student Alumnus Award for Social Sciences. I've known Ernesto for more than 20 years. He was one of the first graduate students to invite me to be part of his committee after I moved to UCSC from UC Berkeley. And my experiences working with him remain among the most positive memories of my career. Ernesto grew up in El Salvador, but did his undergraduate work in crop science just down the road at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. He then completed a master's degree from one of the premier institutes for tropical agriculture, CATIE, in Costa Rica, where he honed some serious skills in ecological analysis applied to agroforestry systems. He then came to UCSC to do a PhD with Professor Steve Gleesman, where he set out to do participatory action research on how the structure of growers' cooperatives in coffee farms shaped management practices, on-farm biodiversity, and soil health. Now, all environmental studies graduate students do scholarly work that includes both natural sciences and social science components. What was really remarkable about Ernesto was that all of his work seamlessly wove social and ecological aspects together into single narratives, blending quantitative and qualitative methodologies together with activist work with coffee growers' cooperatives in El Salvador. There was no aspect of Ernesto's graduate work that was not organically and integrally interdisciplinary, and it all aimed to serve growers, sustainable agriculture, and scholarship in equal measure. He produced a dissertation that we still point to as a prime example of how to do interdisciplinary research well. Of course, Ernesto just used his experiences at UCSC as a launching point, and he continues to be an inspiring leader in agroecology. At the University of Vermont, he's professor of agroecology and environmental studies and the chair of the Department of Plant and Soil Science, where he works to help the university to consciously embrace the conversations and practices needed to engage issues of justice and to better support BIPOC students. He co-directs the dynamic Agroecology and Livelihoods Collaborative, which is a community of practice dedicated to seeking solutions to issues facing food systems around the world through agroecology, participatory action research, and transdisciplinarity. He's in the process of transforming the collaborative into a formal institute. A few of his other impacts include publishing many dozens of papers, edited volumes, serving on the steering committee as a member of the Gund Institute for Environment, serving as associate editor for the journal Elementa, Sustainable Transitions, and is the lead author with his former advisor, Steve Gleesman, of the forthcoming 4th edition of the foundational textbook, Agroecology, The Ecology of Sustainable Food Systems. In my letter of recommendation for Ernesto for the faculty position that he now holds, I wrote, of the many graduate students at 3 universities with whom I've had a close advising relationship, I can think of no one who has taught me more, or with whom I am more enjoyed working. And that still holds true 15 years later. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Ernesto Mendes.
Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you today and a great honor to receive this award. I would like to start by expressing my deepest gratitude for the people that supported me to be here today. First, I would like to thank Professor Greg Gilbert for nominating me for the award and also for that great introduction. Thank you, Greg. I also wanted to thank others that supported Greg in the nomination. Special thanks are also due to my graduate advisor and mentor, Professor Emeritus Steve Gleesman, whom Greg also mentioned, and with whom I continue to work today, and as he said, most recently on the 4th edition of his agroecology textbook. Steve really instilled in me a deep passion for the field of agroecology and a concern for both ecological systems and the people that interact with them. Thanks are also due to my dissertation committee, which includes Professor Greg Gilbert, who's here with us today, Professors Jonathan Fox, and Professor David Goodman. This interdisciplinary committee provided patient guidance, and sometimes they had to be patient. They challenged me to do my best and nurtured my passion for agroecology, the environment, and social justice. The Environmental Studies Department community made me feel welcome as an international graduate student from El Salvador and provided the opportunity for me to meet a diversity of engaging faculty, colleagues, and fellow graduate students. I really cherish the friendships and connections that I made during my time at Santa Cruz, and I really strive to keep them today. They are as important as the knowledge that I gained during my time doing my Ph.D. I also appreciated the opportunity to work with colleagues at the Center for Agroecology and Sustainable Food Systems. And I'm really happy to report that I am currently exploring collaborations with its director, Professor Stacy Philpott, and her team. I gotta say that one of the things that I miss the most is the view of the ocean from that farm. Hope I can be there again sometime soon. I also wanted to express my appreciation for the opportunity to do my PhD in such an open and innovative environment. And this goes both for the Environmental Studies Department, but also the university as a whole. I think I've heard several of the other people getting awards expressing the same. At UCSC, I was encouraged to critically pursue interdisciplinarity, which then led me to find the pillars of my scholarship and teaching today, which are agroecology, transdisciplinarity, and participatory action research. This approach, which I was able to deepen and explore with a lot of support at the University of California, Santa Cruz, is what brought me to the University of Vermont. It is that foundation that has directed me to pursue the research, teaching, and actions today that are focused on transforming our current food system to one that is more ecologically sound and socially just. Unquestionably, UCSC and the Environmental Studies Department provided the groundwork that allowed me to become the engaged scholar that I am today. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
It is my great honor and pleasure to award the 2021 Distinguished Graduate Student Alumni Award for the Social Sciences to Macarena Gómez-Barris, who is a graduate of the sociology program. I speak as the chair and professor in sociology. And I'm speaking and offering this and presenting this award also on behalf of Professor Gómez-Barris's professor, collaborator, and the chair of her Ph.D. committee, Emeritus Professor Herman Gray, who couldn't be here today, but who prepared some words also in presenting this award. And I'm going to be reading some of Professor Gray's comments and then offering a few of my own. So he offers these comments to Maca, as Macarena is known. Maca, congratulations for this wonderful and well-deserved honor for your outstanding accomplishments as a scholar, teacher, and leader. The impact of your path-breaking scholarship in the fields of critical transnational American studies, hemispheric Latin American studies, ethnic studies, and queer studies pushes disciplinary boundaries and sets new terms for how we interrogate, imagine, and critically engage new worlds and possibilities. Your stellar contributions as a researcher, scholar, and activist asks us not just to conjure the multiple registers, the silences, traces, and histories through which to reveal and challenge domination and social injustice, but gives the tools, examples, and inspiration to enact and practice living in a more just world. These concerns with social justice and models of living otherwise, of course, was an impetus for our work together in Towards a Sociology of the Trace, a book that they co-edited together during their time here at UC Santa Cruz. But I suspect it really began with your quest to trace and understand the unspeakable human rights violations and horrors of the regime of Pinochet in Chile. Much of this conjuring was done through your studies and explorations while at UC Santa Cruz. In your first book, which was based on Maca's dissertation, Where Memory Dwells, you detail the residues, registers, and power of memories dwelling in the people, homes, shadows, protests, songs, photographs, streets, parks, and stadia that the state tried to cover over in the name of forgetting and healing. And yet, as you show, those memories continue to dwell in the worlds of those impacted by the violence, the dispossession, the displacement, and the trauma of the dictatorship in Chile. Through your own reckoning, actualized through archival work, interviews, stories, art, architecture, and music, which codified many of these memories and their meanings, you taught us the importance of seeking out, lingering with, and dwelling with these memories, no matter how difficult. This critical reckoning is also central to the challenges you wrestle with and insights you report upon in Extraction Zones, Maca's next book, where you show us the violence and violations of extraction, dispossession, and displacement suffered by local indigenous populations in Central and Latin America at the hands of global corporations, developers, states, and politicians whose disregard and assault result in the immiseration of local populations, the rewriting of cultures, and most important, the desecration of the earth. The pivotal ideas that animate Beyond the Pink Tide, subsequent book, critically interrogate the connections between neoliberal economic doctrines, the torture and disappearance of students, protesters, intellectuals, and LGBTQ activists who fight against the political, economic, and cultural notion of the neoliberal nation state in the name of market sovereignty and development. In your hands, the significance of art and aesthetics in this project rests not just in critiquing the exploitation and wreckage of this vacuous ideal of market sovereignty, but in imagining new possibilities and engaging in alternate critical practices of world-making, attachment, belonging, and community-based justice and inclusion. You have continued to develop these large questions and make new spaces for critical imagination and possibility through your work as a teacher, curator, administrator, and leader. I have been fortunate to experience firsthand the impact of your generative ideas, as well as your generosity as a colleague, mentor, and leader during our time as faculty members at University of Southern California in seminars at UCSC with your peers and colleagues, and as a collaborator during the heady days of your time here as a graduate student. Some of the faculty members and I would often say that we would love to be faculty colleagues with many of the people with whom we taught and from whom we learned. In your case, I feel especially fortunate in having had the rare opportunity of teaching, learning, and collaborating with you as a colleague and a friend. I am so very proud of you and all that you have achieved, which is wonderfully expressed in this award and recognition. I salute and congratulate you on this very special occasion, Herman. And I'm just going to add briefly that I also congratulate you on behalf of other members of your committee, your interdisciplinary committee, Professors John Brown-Childs, Rosalinda Fregoso, and Juan Poblete, and from the whole sociology and social sciences community. We continue to teach and read your work extensively and to be inspired by all the work you do, as I talked about more extensively in my nomination for this award. And if I may, I also congratulate you as a former faculty member in your current department in social sciences and cultural studies at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn. You truly exemplify to me and all of us what critical, theoretically informed, transnational social sciences and cultural studies can be, and how vital this approach is and remains to our future students and the future of our field and our complex social and cultural world. So please join me in honoring and congratulating Macarena Gómez-Barris for this very well-deserved award. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to express my sincere gratitude for this special honor and such extraordinary company. And it's really incredible to be recognized by UC Santa Cruz, the School of Social Sciences, Sociology, so key to my academic formation. Thank you, Miriam Greenberg, for that beautiful and generous introduction. It's very moving to hear Herman Gray's words. And your own work, Branding New York, was a key text for me when I made the transition from the University of Southern California in Los Angeles to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn 5 years ago. Currently, I come to you all from Lenape territories and the lands of 13 other Native peoples situated alongside the East River in Williamsburg, that is part of Long Island. And I've been reminded of late of my 6 years at UC Santa Cruz, not only because of this lovely alumni award, but also because my son Renato begins college in the fall. We lived on the UCSC campus in graduate student housing when he was born, and he spent his toddler years there. As a young man, Renato loves to hike, recently declared himself a young revolutionary, and decided on a public university education because he does not want to contribute to, as he put it, the extractive practices of predatory and debt capitalism. He is most definitely a baby slug, though no longer a baby, but a 6-foot young man. So there is that deeply personal bond, but also a sense of multiplicity and heterogeneity for all that I learned in relation to the rich nexus of the intellectual currents at UC Santa Cruz. It's a place where the critical humanities and conscious social science scholarship are centered to produce outstanding scholars out of deep training. In sociology, we read Marx's Das Kapital alongside W.B. Du Bois' Black Reconstruction and Professors Herman Gray and Dana Takagi's Foundational Theory course, connecting, of course, the Black radical tradition to the very roots of the social science and humanities disciplines and interdisciplines. Similarly, in other seminars, we read the Frankfurt School alongside Raymond Williams and Stuart Hall, which all deepened my post-colonial, decolonial, and diasporic approach to Eurocontinental cultural theory and studies. In particular, for my own work, Studying Latinx and Latin American studies together rather than discretely was foundational for the Americas work I've done with the Hemispheric Institute for Performance Studies and Politics at NYU, and in my series with Diana Taylor, Dissident Acts at Duke University Press, but also stretching what we mean by American studies. It was important also to receive a fellowship from then director Pat Sevilla at the Chicano Latino Research Center and a graduate research assistantship working with the great late Chicano scholar Leonel Cantú, rest in power. Without these engagements, I am not sure my work would be as grounded in experience, in queerness, in boundary crossing, and against the shadow force of the racial state. I am grateful to the extraordinary mentors in my peer community, so many to name, but all that helped anchor my ethical, social, environmental, and political commitments. My work with Juan Poblete, Guillermo de Gallo P, John Brown Childs, all helped me develop a historical, regional, and Americas lens on Afro indigenous resistance, not as episodic, but as a permanent condition of ongoing practice. I was Rosalinda Fregoso's RA for her work on femicide. Candace West, Professor Candace West, offered finishing school when I excitedly received an offer for assistant professor at USC. I was actually in her class and we practiced my job talk in her class. As a first-generation immigrant and exile from Latin America, I learned the importance of engaged research and practice from an early age, and then UCSC was a perfect place to develop these skills decades later. I truly believe that I would not be doing this multiple approach work rather than working from a singular episteme had I studied somewhere else. Indeed, I ask, as Herman said, big questions. I'm currently thinking about multi-species justice and detoxifying land and sea in relationship to US military infrastructure. My constant questions, like many of us are asking, are how do we ethically work towards military and police abolition, work with frontline communities? How do we unlearn coloniality and patriarchy to make the world anew? And I know that I can't answer these large questions on my own that cut at the architecture of racial capitalism, but fortunately I'm engaged with a rich group of more than 200 artists and activists and scholars at the Global South Center in Brooklyn. It's this kind of collaboration with research teams that tether and develop our social ecologies, that enliven our research, that enliven what it means to be alive as human or more than human today. I feel like these social ecologies are what I learned to build, to critique existing inequality, but also to create the world otherwise. This is what I most learned from my time at UC Santa Cruz. So thank you for the award and recognition, for the beautiful and meaningful, mostly public graduate education. And I want to dedicate this award to Herman Gray, my advisor, collaborator, and dear, dear friend. Thank you.
Thank you all for such a marvelous set of introductions and presentations. It's been such a great illustration of the outstanding breadth of our programs here at UCSC, with alumni awards spanning from contributions to deathcore metal music to D.M.A. coupled epigenetic inheritance. As we bestow these awards, we invite our honorees to consider that our doors, hearts, and minds are more than open to your ongoing engagement with UC Santa Cruz, our graduate programs, and especially our current graduate students. We always value every opportunity to strengthen our relationship and connections with our alumni. So enjoy your Annie glass platters, which are the physical manifestation of this award. And thank you all for accepting this award and for the many ways each of you contributes to the reputation of UC Santa Cruz and our graduate programs. Thank you all so much.